Welcome back to the channel. Today's lesson is titled Sling Not Swing. So what is a sling? Well, it's a throwing action from a rotational movement. So we've talked about the basic underlying structure of our swinging motion as a underhanded high throwing action. So that's the throwing part. The slinging part is how higher level players, including the GOATs, feel when they release this racket into contact. That is the slinging feeling. So I think someone commented on the channel that you can't have acceleration and consistency. That's completely wrong. Actually, the faster you make this action, the more stable in flight this racket head will be in this edge thrown action. So we can, generate as much speed as our body will allow and the particular shot we're trying to hit will allow. We don't have to worry about that. So we get speed and consistency with this throwing out on the edge. And it's just a freewheeling, freeing motion that will really transform your game and maybe even your life. Rotational movement converted to a linear throw. And you can throw that pebble or rock or projectile 400 yards, so you can strike the enemy in a far distance. So, this is what made the Balearic slinger so famous, and you can see the statue in the background here of one of their famous ancient slingers. But the tradition of slinging doesn't stop in ancient times. So the capital of the Balearic Islands is Majorca, where the current day champion slinger is Rafael Nadal. And I'm sure there'll be a statue to him as well, maybe right side by side the ancient one. So we're still carrying on the tradition of slinging, even though we don't necessarily recognize it today, but we're going to take care of that in our lesson. So what's the difference between a swing and a sling? We've talked about this in several different ways, but it bears repeating because 99% of tennis players swing at a tennis ball with a poor technique. And that poor technique involves putting leverage and a pushing action into the handle of the racket and sending the head of the racket out too soon, too far, and then having to steer through contact. And in terms of the swing, it has the connotation of hitting the ball. And this is also too much of a dominant thought in most players' minds, is once they think about hitting the ball, they want to think about this swatting, levering action to hit it. And they're focused on that hit there. They're not focused on the overall form of the swing path. So slinging is fundamentally going to be different. It's going to be not using leverage, but using the pulling action of the body, followed by a lagging racket through contact, as we've been talking about in this beautiful spiraling inside-out motion. And so in terms of thinking, we're thinking as we gather all this energy and move it into contact that we're not steering and manipulating this racket. We're letting that action move out from the rotation of the core of our body in this spiraling motion that we're making with all the power of our big muscles. And we're letting that energy flow out into our hand and arm and a natural release into contact. That's a sling. It's a free wheeling action, a free feeling action, totally different than consciously manipulating contact in a swing. Now, if you've made it through this entire lesson and done all the exercises of slinging, I can welcome you to the elite cohort of slingers down through history and down through sport. Now, maybe no one will erect a statue to you like this slinger in the background up here, but people will notice that your game is at a different level, and they'll come up to you and ask you, hey, how do you hit the ball like that? And your answer will be in 4 words: I sling, not swing.